The rain had begun as a light drizzle, the kind that made the leaves shimmer and the rooftops sing. But by the time midnight struck, it had turned into a furious storm. Thunder shook the village, and lightning split the sky into jagged white scars. The wind howled through the narrow streets, rattling shutters and tossing broken branches across the road. In a small wooden house at the edge of the village, a baby lay in a basket on the porch. His cries were nearly swallowed by the roar of the storm, his tiny fists reaching out into the cold air. He had been left there, abandoned by the very family who should have protected him. Inside, the family sat around their table arguing. The grandmother muttered about omens and curses. "That child is strange. The night he was born, the sky shook as if the world itself was angry. No good can come from a baby like that." The father rubbed his temples, torn between shame and fear. "He is my son, but since his birth, the animals grow restless and storms come without warning. People whisper already. They say we brought a cursed child into the world." The mother, her face pale, remained silent. She could still hear his cries faintly through the wooden walls, but she turned her face away. Fear was louder than love that night. The baby's cries grew weaker. Rain soaked through the thin blanket, chilling his tiny body. But then something strange happened. The storm around the house seemed to hesitate, as if it too had paused to listen. The thunder rolled softer. The lightning dimmed. And in the heart of the storm, the baby's eyes opened wide, bright, glowing faintly like silver. He waved his tiny hand, and the rain above him suddenly swirled, spinning into a delicate spiral. The howling wind bent, circling the basket as though shielding him. For a brief moment, the storm obeyed him, but the family inside did not see. They only heard the storm fade slightly and took it as a sign that leaving him outside was the right choice. The grandmother nodded with grim satisfaction. "The storm knows he doesn't belong with us. Leave him there. By morning, the rain will have washed away this curse." Yet the storm did not wash him away. Instead, it seemed to grow gentler around the child. The water soaked him, but he did not shiver. The thunder shook the ground, but he did not cry. His eyes glowed brighter with every strike of lightning, as though he was drinking in the storm itself. Hours passed. The family fell asleep in their beds, thinking the storm would claim him. But when dawn broke, the baby still lay in the basket, alive and unharmed. The rain had stopped, the air smelled of wet earth, and the sky above was strangely clear, as if the storm had vanished the moment he drifted into sleep. When the father stepped outside and saw him, his heart nearly stopped. The baby was smiling, tiny fingers reaching toward the sun. The blanket, though soaked, seemed to steam slightly as if warmed by some hidden fire. The father whispered, "Impossible." The grandmother rushed out and gasped. "He should have frozen. No child survives a night like that. This is unnatural." The mother finally stepped forward, trembling. For the first time since his birth, she looked closely at her son. His silver eyes met hers, wide and unblinking. Something deep inside her stirred, fear, yes, but also awe. "He's not cursed," she whispered. "He's chosen." The grandmother spat on the ground. "Chosen by what? Look at him, he bends storms. Do you think the village will accept this? They will call him a demon. They will drive us out." The father closed his eyes. He knew the truth in her words. The villagers were already suspicious, always watching their house, whispering about the strange weather that followed them. If they discovered the baby's power, they might not only take him away, they might kill him. That day, the family made a decision that would shape everything to come. They took the baby back inside, but they swore never to speak of what had happened. They would raise him as quietly as possible, hide his silver eyes from the world, and pray that his strange powers would fade as he grew. But power like his does not fade, it grows. And so the child who had been left in the rain, the child who had tamed a storm before he could walk, would grow up with a secret that no one could contain forever. The storm had chosen him, and one day the world would know. The boy grew quickly, and with each year his silver eyes shone brighter. His parents named him Elias, though in the village he was often called the quiet child. He rarely cried, rarely spoke, but when he did, his words seemed to echo strangely, as though the air itself leaned closer to listen. From the very beginning, odd things happened around him. If Elias laughed, clouds would scatter and sunlight would pour down even on the gloomiest day. If he was frightened, winds whipped through the house, rattling shutters and scattering papers. And if he grew angry, though this happened rarely, the sky would rumble as though warning anyone foolish enough to cross him. His parents tried to hide these events. If neighbors asked why their roof had been struck by lightning twice in 1 month, the father blamed it on bad luck. If someone noticed how rain fell only on other fields while their garden stayed dry, the mother claimed it was coincidence. But whispers spread quickly in a small village. "Strange things follow that family," the baker muttered one morning as thunder rolled above a clear sky. "I heard their boy was born on a night of storms," said the butcher's wife. "They say the rain hasn't left him since." "Cursed child," the blacksmith spat. "Mark my words, nothing good will come from him. him. The grandmother, bitter and fearful, only fueled the gossip. "I told them from the beginning," she whispered to anyone who would listen. "The boy is unnatural. He is tied to storms. One day he will bring ruin." Inside the home, however, Elias was simply a child, curious, gentle, and often lonely. He spent hours staring out of the window, watching clouds drift across the sky. Sometimes, when he reached out his hand, the wind shifted to swirl around him playfully. Birds perched near him as if drawn by his presence, and the rain seemed to fall softer when it touched his skin. But Elias also noticed how people looked at him differently. At the market, children were pulled away from him. Mothers whispered, pointing to his strange silver eyes. Even when he tried to smile, they stepped back as though afraid he might strike them with lightning. One afternoon, while playing near the stream, Elias sat with another boy from the village. For the first time, he felt almost normal, skipping stones across the water. But when Elias laughed too loudly, the sky darkened for just a moment, a small rumble of thunder answering his joy. The boy's eyes widened in terror. "It's you," he whispered. "You make the storms." And before Elias could answer, the boy ran off, screaming. By evening, the story had spread like wildfire. "He controls the skies," people said. "He summons thunder." Some swore they had seen lightning in his eyes. Others claimed he had cursed the stream itself. His father tried to calm the villagers. "Children imagine things," he insisted. "My son is harmless." But the whispers did not stop. At home, Elias asked quietly, "Father, am I dangerous?" The question broke the man's heart. He knelt down, holding Elias by the shoulders. "You are not dangerous, my son. You are different, but different does not mean bad. Do you understand?" Elias nodded, though uncertainty clouded his silver eyes. That night, unable to sleep, Elias slipped out of bed and stood in the yard. The moonlight bathed him in silver, and the air smelled of rain. Closing his eyes, he reached out with his small hands. The wind shifted instantly, circling him like an unseen friend. Clouds began to gather where the sky had been clear. He could feel the heartbeat of the storm pulsing in his chest, as though he was part of it. He raised one hand higher, and a bolt of lightning cracked in the distance, followed by a deep roll of thunder. Elias gasped. He hadn't meant to call it, but at the same time he felt alive, powerful, like the storm was his and his alone. From the shadows, the grandmother watched, her face pale with dread. She turned away quickly, muttering under her breath, "This is not the power of a child. This is the power of a curse. The village must be warned." The next morning, fear spread faster than ever. Chickens had scattered, dogs barked through the night, and villagers claimed they had seen dark clouds gather only above Elias' house. The blacksmith banged his hammer down and growled, "We cannot let this boy bring storms upon us. Something must be done." The family's home, once ignored, was now the center of constant suspicion. The mother tried to comfort Elias, whispering promises of safety, but inside her heart trembled, because she too had seen the lightning dance in his eyes, and she knew the storm that lived inside her son could not stay hidden forever. The days grew darker as Elias grew older. He was only 7 now, but his powers had already become impossible to hide. Sometimes, when he was upset, rain would fall only on their roof, pounding so loudly the neighbors couldn't sleep. Other times, when he laughed, the wind would swirl playfully, carrying leaves into the air as if they were dancing around him. His mother tried to keep him indoors, hoping fewer eyes would witness the strange events. But children do not stay hidden forever. Elias longed for freedom, for space to breathe, for the sky itself. And every time he stepped outside, the sky seemed to answer him. The villagers grew restless. At first, their whispers were only behind closed doors, but soon they spoke openly. "Every storm begins near his house," muttered the baker. "I saw him raise his hand and the clouds rolled in," claimed the butcher's wife. "He's cursed," spat the blacksmith. "If we let him grow, he'll destroy us all." Elias heard them sometimes when he went to the market with his father. Their eyes followed him like daggers. He tried to pretend he didn't care, but deep down, the words sank into his heart like stones. One fateful afternoon, everything changed. The village had gathered for a festival, a rare moment of joy after weeks of heavy rain. Stalls lined the square, filled with food, music, and laughter. For once, even Elias smiled as he watched the dancers twirl. His parents had insisted he stay close, but the excitement drew him toward the games played by other children. At first, they ignored him, but when Elias picked up a ball and joined, a boy sneered. "We don't want storms here. Go away, cloud boy." The others laughed. Elias felt his face flush. "I'm not a storm," he whispered, but the taunts grew louder. "Thunder eyes, demon child." One boy shoved him hard enough to send him tumbling into the dirt. The crowd noticed. Parents rushed to pull their children away, muttering curses and prayers. Elias sat trembling on the ground, anger and shame twisting inside him. He wanted them to stop. He wanted them to see he wasn't weak, he wanted. The sky darkened instantly. Clouds rolled over the festival, swallowing the sun in seconds. Wind whipped through the square, toppling stalls and scattering food. Lightning cracked across the sky, so close the ground shook. The villagers screamed, "It's him, he's calling the storm." Elias tried to stand, but the power inside him surged uncontrollably. The more afraid he grew, the harder the storm raged. Rain poured down, soaking everyone, while thunder boomed like the voice of an angry god. His mother rushed to him, grabbing his shoulders. "Elias, stop, please, you must calm down." "I can't," he cried, his silver eyes glowing with blinding light. "It won't listen." The storm bent around his every emotion, as if tied to his heartbeat. The harder he sobbed, the louder the thunder grew. The more his fear swelled, the sharper the lightning struck. Villagers scrambled to escape the square. Some fell to their knees, praying for mercy. Others shouted, "We must cast him out before he destroys us all." The father stepped forward, shielding his son with his own body. "He is just a boy," he shouted against the storm. "Would you abandon a child because he is different?" But his words were lost in the roar of the wind. It was only when Elias' mother pressed her forehead to his and whispered gently, "You are safe. You are loved. The storm is not your master, you are." That something inside him shifted. The power still surged, but now it slowed like a wild horse being tamed. Elias gasped for air, tears mixing with the rain. Slowly, the wind began to die down. The clouds parted, letting a ray of sunlight pierce through. By the time the storm cleared, the festival was ruined. Stalls were shattered, food was spoiled, and fear clung to every corner. The villagers stared at Elias not with pity, but with terror. That night, a secret meeting was held in the town hall. The blacksmith slammed his fist on the table. "This cannot continue. He nearly destroyed the square. Next time, he'll bring fire from the sky." The baker's wife nodded. "He is dangerous. If we let him grow, he'll doom us all." But a few voices were softer. "He's still a child," said the schoolteacher. "Maybe he can be taught." The grandmother's voice rose above the rest. "No lesson will change what he is. He was born in a storm, and storms bring only ruin. If we do not act, the village will pay." The vote was divided, but fear outweighed compassion. The decision was made. Elias could no longer stay. Back at home, his parents held him close, unaware of the judgment passed against him. Elias stared out the window at the stars, still trembling from what had happened. He whispered to himself, "I don't want to be a monster, I just want to be me." But the storm inside him was not done, and neither was the village. The morning after the storm at the festival, the village no longer felt like home. Neighbors who once nodded politely now slammed their doors when Elias' family passed. Children who used to wave now hid behind their parents, whispering, "That's him, the storm boy." Elias noticed every glance, every whisper. His small shoulders carried the weight of shame heavier than any burden. He hadn't meant to hurt anyone. He hadn't even wanted the storm to come. But the truth was undeniable. The storm had listened to him, and the people had seen it. That evening, heavy knocks rattled their wooden door. His father opened it to find the blacksmith, the baker, and several other villagers standing together, faces grim. Behind them, torches flickered in the twilight, carried by a growing crowd. "We need to talk," the blacksmith growled. The father's jaw tightened. "This is our home. Whatever you have to say, you will say it with respect." The blacksmith ignored him and pointed inside. "The boy, he is not safe here. He brings storms, destruction. If he stays, we all suffer." The mother pulled Elias behind her, shielding him. "He is a child, my child. He has done nothing wrong." "Nothing wrong," the baker's wife shouted from the crowd. "He nearly destroyed the festival. He called lightning from the sky. Next time it will strike one of us dead. He cannot control it," the schoolteacher said gently, stepping forward. "But perhaps he can learn. We should guide him, not cast him out." "No," the grandmother's voice cut through the noise like a knife. She stepped into the torchlight, her face hard. "I saw him summon the storm with my own eyes. He is not a gift. He is a curse. The longer he stays, the greater the danger." Elias trembled, clutching his mother's dress. He whispered, "Mama, they hate me." She bent low, pressing her cheek to his. "They are afraid, not hateful, but I will never let them take you." But the decision had already been made. The blacksmith lifted his torch high. "By sunrise he leaves. Take him far, or we will drive him out ourselves." The villagers shouted in agreement, their voices a storm louder than thunder. The family had no choice. That night, tears filled their small house. Elias' father packed what little food they had into a sack. His mother wrapped a cloak around him, her hands trembling as she tied it. "Why?" Elias asked, his silver eyes wet. "Why can't I stay? I didn't mean to hurt anyone." His father knelt down, cupping his face. "This is not your fault, Elias. You are not evil, but people fear what they do not understand, and fear can turn to cruelty." The boy buried his face in his father's chest. "Where will we go?" The mother's voice was soft but steady. "Somewhere new, somewhere you will not be cursed for what you are." Before dawn, they slipped away, carrying nothing but their love for their son. But as they reached the edge of the village, Elias turned for one last look. The roofs of the houses glowed faintly in the first light, and he remembered every smile, every laugh, every every face that now feared him. His chest ached. Rain began to fall, not heavy, just a soft drizzle. It followed them down the road, though the rest of the sky was clear. His mother noticed and whispered, "The storm cries with you." But behind them, in the village, the grandmother's warning grew louder. "He will return one day, and when he does, he will bring ruin upon us all." Days turned into weeks as the family wandered from town to town. Some places welcomed them for a time, but the storms followed wherever Elias went. If he was frightened, lightning struck too close. If he was angry, winds ripped through the streets. The family moved on again and again, never truly finding rest. Elias grew quieter, more withdrawn. He tried to smile for his parents' sake, but inside he wrestled with a question that haunted him every night. Was he really cursed? One evening, as they sheltered beneath a broken barn, Elias sat awake listening to the rain tapping on the roof. He raised his hand slowly, wondering if it would listen. The drops froze midair, hanging like jewels around him. For a moment it was beautiful. Then he lowered his hand, and the rain crashed down again. His mother stirred and watched him with wide eyes. "You're learning, aren't you?" Elias nodded slowly. "I think the storm hears me, but I don't know why." She pulled him close, her voice full of hope. "Then one day you will learn to guide it, not fear it. You are not a curse, Elias. You are something greater." But far away in the village they had left behind, dark clouds gathered again. Not from Elias this time, but from something far more dangerous. Crops failed, rivers swelled, and storms ravaged the land. The villagers muttered among themselves. "It is punishment," the blacksmith said. "The boy's power was holding the skies at bay," the schoolteacher whispered. "And now that he is gone, the heavens rage without him." The grandmother shook her head. "No, this is only the beginning. The boy's return will decide our fate." Years passed, and Elias grew from a frightened boy into a thoughtful young man. The silver in his eyes, once a source of ridicule, now burned brighter with every season. He had learned to quiet the storm inside him, though it was never easy. His family had built a small life on the edge of a distant forest. They grew their own food, kept to themselves, and avoided towns where questions might arise. Elias' father aged quickly from worry, but his mother carried an unwavering hope that her son's gift had meaning. By now, Elias knew his power was not a curse, it was a connection. The skies did not simply obey him, they resonated with him. His heartbeat echoed in thunder, his emotions shaped the rain, his will steered the winds. At first, the power frightened him, but slowly he had begun to experiment. He discovered he could call gentle showers to water their crops. He could clear clouds for a sunny day when his parents worked in the fields. At night, when he wanted light, he could coax small sparks of lightning to dance harmlessly in his hands. But storms were still dangerous. When anger or fear overtook him, the skies responded violently. More than once, his father had to hold him tightly, calming him down as the wind rattled the house and lightning threatened to split the trees. Despite these struggles, Elias carried himself with kindness. He helped travelers who passed by, guiding them through heavy rains and ensuring storms avoided their path. Some left blessings, whispering that he was touched by the heavens. For the first time in his life, Elias felt he could be more than a curse. But far away in the village that had cast him out, the storms had only worsened. Crops failed under unending rain, roofs collapsed under thunderous skies, and floods destroyed roads. The villagers grew desperate. It began after the boy left, the schoolteacher reminded them. Perhaps he held the storms back, another said. Nonsense, the grandmother snapped, though her own eyes betrayed doubt. He brought them. His return will bring only doom. Yet desperation has a way of silencing fear. A group of villagers finally set out to find Elias, guided by rumors of a young man who could calm storms. It was on a bleak afternoon, thunder rolling across the horizon, that Elias saw strangers approaching his family's cottage. He stepped outside, wary but calm, the rain parting above his head as though respecting him. The blacksmith was among them, his beard streaked with gray, his eyes no less hard than before. "We have come for you," he said bluntly. Elias' father moved quickly between them. "You cast him out once. You will not take him now." The baker's wife raised her hands in surrender. "We come not to harm him, we come to beg. The storms destroy everything. Without him, we will not survive." Elias' mother looked at her son. His silver eyes searched the villagers' faces. Once they had feared him. Now they looked at him with desperate hope. "Why should I help?" Elias asked softly, his voice carrying beneath the rumble of thunder. "When I was a boy, you called me a curse. You cast me out. You left me to wander." The blacksmith lowered his gaze. Pride weighed heavy on his shoulders. "We were wrong. We did not understand, but now we do. You are not a curse. You are the only one who can save us." Elias turned away, conflicted. He still remembered the pain of being mocked, the fear in their eyes, the night they forced his family to leave. Part of him wanted to refuse, to let the storms punish them as they had punished him. But his mother touched his arm gently. "Elias, bitterness will not heal your heart. You were given this power for a reason. Perhaps this is that reason. He stood silently for a long time, the storm above echoing his turmoil. Then, with a deep breath, he spoke. I will return with you, not for your forgiveness, but for the people who suffer. No child should cry from hunger because of a storm I can calm. Relief swept through the villagers. They bowed their heads, murmuring thanks. That night, Elias prepared for the journey back. He sat outside, staring at the stars, feeling the pulse of the skies in his chest. His father joined him quietly. Are you ready for what awaits? His father asked. No, Elias admitted, but the storm is not something I can run from. It is a part of me. If I do not face it, it will consume me. His father placed a hand on his shoulder. Then you are stronger than I ever imagined. The next morning, Elias and his parents walked with the villagers back toward the place that had once cast them out. As they drew closer, the land bore scars of devastation. Flooded fields, broken homes, shattered trees. The air smelled of wet earth and desperation. The village came into view, battered and beaten, but still standing. People gathered as Elias entered, whispers rising around him. Some looked fearful still, others hopeful. The grandmother stepped forward, her voice sharp. Do not be fooled. His power is not salvation, it is temptation. The skies are not meant to be controlled. If you let him wield it, he will bring ruin. But as she spoke, thunder cracked again overhead, lightning striking dangerously close to the village. Children screamed and mothers clutched them close. Elias raised his hand. The skies hesitated. The clouds shifted, thunder softened, and the rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. For the first time in years, the sun broke through, casting golden light over the ruined fields. The villagers gasped. Elias lowered his hand, his silver eyes glowing faintly. I do not bring storms, I calm them. I do not curse, I heal. But you must decide if you will trust me or lose everything to the skies. Silence fell. The grandmother's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, her certainty faltered. And deep inside, Elias knew the final storm was yet to come. And though Elias did not know it yet, destiny was already calling him back. The sun that broke through Elias' command of the clouds brought hope to the villagers, but it did not last long. Within days, darker skies gathered on the horizon, thicker, heavier, more violent than anything they had seen before. The winds bent trees to the ground. Rivers burst their banks. Lightning forked endlessly across the sky, and thunder shook the earth. This was no ordinary storm. It was something greater, something older, wild, untamed, and beyond human comprehension. The schoolteacher whispered what many feared. It is as if the heavens themselves are angry. The villagers gathered in the square, soaked in rain, begging Elias for help. Mothers clutched their crying children, and fathers pleaded, their voices nearly drowned out by the roar of wind. Save us, storm boy. You are our only hope. Elias stood at the center, cloak whipping in the wind, silver eyes glowing faintly. His parents flanked him, fear in their hearts but faith in their son. The grandmother, however, raised her voice above the chaos. Do not trust him. This storm is his doing. He has angered the gods with his arrogance. If he tries to fight it, he will destroy us all. Elias looked at her not with anger but with calm resolve. This storm is not mine. It is beyond me, but it calls to me, and if I do nothing, you will all perish. The blacksmith shouted over the howling wind. Then what do you need from us? Faith, Elias answered simply. With that, he stepped forward out of the safety of the crowd and into the open field where the storm raged strongest. The villagers watched, terrified, as the boy they had once mocked walked straight into the heart of chaos. The sky above split open with violent light. Rain poured down in sheets, drenching him instantly, but Elias lifted his arms and closed his eyes. He felt the storm surge inside him, not as an enemy, but as a living force, wild and fierce, like a beast unchained. He whispered into the wind, I am not afraid of you. You are part of me. The storm howled in response, as if testing him. A bolt of lightning struck the ground only a few feet away, shaking the earth beneath his boots. The villagers cried out, some begging him to return, but Elias stood firm. The storm pressed harder, rain blinding, wind cutting, thunder deafening. Memories filled Elias' mind. The night he was left in the rain as a baby, the children who mocked him, the night he was cast out, the loneliness, the fear. All the pain he had carried rose like a flood inside him. But then he remembered something else. His mother's gentle voice telling him he was loved, his father's steady arms holding him when he shook, the kindness of strangers he had helped along the way. The storm did not define him. Love did. With a deep breath, Elias stretched out his hands. Lightning coursed between his fingers, wrapping around him like glowing serpents. The storm roared louder, but Elias roared back. You are not my master, I am yours. A shockwave of light burst from him, spreading through the storm clouds. The villagers shielded their eyes as the wind screamed and the rain froze in midair, suspended like glass. For a moment, the world stood still. Then silence. The storm broke apart, the clouds dissolving into wisps, the rain vanishing into mist. mist. The sky cleared and golden sunlight poured down over the village. The land, battered and broken, was now bathed in peace. The villagers slowly lifted their heads, unable to believe what they had seen. Elias stood at the center of the field, glowing faintly with the last traces of lightning. His cloak was torn, his body trembling with exhaustion, but his silver eyes shone brighter than ever. He turned to the crowd, his voice steady though his body shook. "The storm will never harm you again, but remember this, it was never meant to be feared. The storm gives life as much as it brings destruction. It is balance, it is power, and it chose me to carry it." For the first time, the grandmother could not speak. Her mouth opened, but no words came. The fear she had carried for years dissolved into awe. The blacksmith dropped to his knees. "Forgive us, we were blind, you are not a curse, you are a blessing." One by one, the villagers bowed their heads, not out of fear, but out of respect. Children peeked from behind their parents, eyes wide with wonder instead of terror. Elias' parents rushed to him, holding him tightly. His father whispered, voice breaking, "You have done what none of us could. You faced the sky itself and won." His mother kissed his forehead. "My son, you were never cursed, you were chosen." From that day forward, Elias was no longer the storm boy. He was the guardian of the skies. He taught the villagers to respect the balance of nature, to see storms not as punishments, but as reminders of the world's power. And when dark clouds gathered again, people no longer trembled in fear. They looked to Elias, and with a single raised hand, he would guide the rain where it was needed, the winds where they belonged. The boy they once cast out had become their protector, their savior, their legend. And as Elias stood beneath the open sky, silver eyes reflecting the light, he whispered softly to himself, "The storm was never my enemy. It was always my destiny."